afternoon and welcome everyone to today's Southern Fire Exchange webinar. Let me back this right up. Thanks for holding with us there. My name is David Godwin and I'm the Outreach Coordinator for the Southern Fire Exchange. Today we're excited to have our guest speaker, Justin Shedd, Research Associate with NC State University. Today he'll be giving a presentation discussing examples of moving GIS records from a desktop environment to a web platform. Please do take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat pod on the lower right-hand corner of your screen, and I see a number of folks have already done so. And please also take a moment to fill out those poll questions on your screen or on the outside of the screen. Following the presentation today, we'll have a question and an answer period for everyone in the audience. So if you have a question or a comment along the way, you can hold those till the end, or Justin is okay if you go ahead and type those in during the presentation today as well. If you're here seeking SAF-CFE credits, please do make sure that you enter your full name and webinar in the box to the upper left-hand side of your screen, and make sure that you stay logged in for the entire webinar to be eligible for credit. Finally, if anyone needs to leave early, the webinar will be recorded and it will be archived on our YouTube page in about a week or so. I'd also like to take this opportunity to share a little bit of information about the Southern Fire Exchange. We are a regional program for fire science delivery in the Southeast, and we are funded by the Joint Fire Science Program. Our mission is to increase the availability and application of fire science information for resource management and to serve as a conduit for fire managers to share new research needs with the research community. For more information and to see what kind of programs and resources we have available, please see our website at www.southernfireexchange.org. The best way to stay connected with us is by joining our email list. You'll receive occasional emails with information about our upcoming webinars, field tours, and other programs and products that we're working on. And next, I'd like to quickly mention that we're working with our funding source, the Joint Fire Science Program, on our 2-year review survey. Please consider following the link on your screen to the survey and letting JFSP know how we're doing. They use these surveys to evaluate our program and to ensure that the national network of fire science consortiums is improving access to wildland fire science information. Now on with our presentation and our guest. Since 2005, Justin has been a research associate and GIS specialist at North Carolina State University College of Natural Resources. His work focuses on GIS and geospatial technologies and their application within the wildland fire management community. This includes data management and web mapping. His past projects have included object-oriented mapping of woody debris, the creation of fuel model and loading databases, distributed database design and deployment, and providing training on new technologies. Justin has a BA in Geography from UNC Chapel Hill and an MS in Spatial Analysis from NC State. So welcome, Justin. Thank you for joining us today, and just one moment as I load your presentation.
David, thank you for the introduction. So without further ado, I entitled this web map, Shifting the GIS Platform, Empowering More to Do GIS. There's probably a couple different variations that you could have come up, but I thought this fit for today. A brief outline of what I'm going to talk about here, just kind of a framework of framing the situation that's going on with web mapping and GIS, some of the challenges facing GIS. I'm going to step through my personal web map journey that I've been on for the last few years, and then assuming technology works, I'm going to go into some real-world examples where I'll actually drive around and demonstrate some of the capabilities of the ArcGIS platform. And then I'll go into some detail, not great detail, but a pretty good jump into what ArcGIS Online is and what the ArcGIS Online organization. As a disclaimer, I don't. Most of this talk will focus on ArcGIS Online towards the end here, but there are tons of other web mapping applications, web map softwares that are out there This is the one that I happen to be most familiar with at this time. So there's my disclaimer. I don't need to do this. Feel free to ask technical questions. I see there's some GIS folks that are on the webinar today. Feel free to ask those questions. I'm not going to necessarily jump into it in my talk, but I can get a little deeper if you desire. So not too long ago, within the wildland fire community, GIS was considered a luxury. Today, I would venture to say that it's pretty much a requirement. Hardware and software within GIS have matured to the point where the true enterprise GIS of being able to distribute one single data source to multiple individuals in multiple platforms does exist now. And because of this maturity, more and more people are actually being introduced to geospatial data. However, the marriage between wildland fire and GIS has always been rocky, in my opinion. GIS, we love to map the heck out of something down to a centimeter, whereas fire just wants you to get me in the general ballpark. So finding that a happy median has always has been tricky. But almost all of the decision support systems and the record management systems being utilized by at least federal interagency programs are geospatially based, or they are currently being redesigned so that they can be geospatially enabled. And this all just gets back to data. And to help these are not independent things. They're kind of moving along. Web maps in the recent years have proliferated because of the maturity of the software, but then the availability of data. And then in turn, because the web maps have made data more available, that's driving the GIS needs or uses. Let's see here. I could have come up with a couple lists of, or a couple slides of challenges that are facing GIS, and this is just a few. I'm not going to talk about all 5 of these. Mainly, it's just going to be these. I will touch on these 3 here. Let's see. I guess, well, in incorrect order here, but terminology. I'll throw that out. I'll throw this out here just to make sure that we're all on the same page here. I don't really use the word data that much anymore when I talk to the wildland fire community. I'll say polygon. But then again, if I am talking to a GIS person, then I will talk about data. Map, however, is a term that I use very often. If I say, what do you want a map of? They understand that, as opposed to what data do you have, or what type of data do you want to see on a map? It seems obvious, but it's worth noting that again. Web map. That's pretty much a generic term for the multitudes of maps that are available on the internet. Google Maps, Yahoo Maps, maps that are embedded within a particular website. There's 4 main different types of web maps. There's a static web map, and you can just think of that as a PDF that you can zoom in, zoom out of, and you could print screen as well. But you can't, quote, do anything with it. Then there's the analytic maps, and that allows you to do something. If you want to query the data, if you want to select by a particular location or geographic area, collection. Then there's animated maps, which are time-enabled. So think of the Weather Service maps as you see the storm frontage march across. And then real-time, and you can think of that as traffic maps or web camera maps, webcam maps. Data availability. Data is everywhere, and depending on the state or agency, you can look through a listing, like the one on the left here for geoplatform.gov. You can look through a listing. You can enter in some text and focus your search that way, or like the USGS's, or I'm sorry, like the national map example on the right here. It's more of a map-based. You can zoom in and pick your area of interest. And a lot of the maps that are out there now give you functions that will let you specifically select the data that you're particularly looking for and then download that data as well. There's almost every, well, not almost, I should say there's lots of different state agencies, county agencies, cities, federal agencies as well, that have their own particular web maps designed just to disseminate their particular data. I don't pick out Kentucky for any particular reason. This Commonwealth map has been up for a couple of years, and it's been a pretty good, useful tool. But there's definitely other examples of maps that are out there. This is one from the city of Raleigh. Again, just facilitating data dissemination. The data that's available, how can we get at it? As a GIS person, I find this much more intuitive than a listing. But if you're a librarian or somebody who likes to rather look at spreadsheets, then maybe a listing is more to your liking. But let's see. So ESRI ArcMap. They're the industry leader in this. And while web maps in general have been around, just by a couple of those examples are a couple years old, in my professional opinion, it was really the movement of ESRI, of ArcMap, of ArcGIS, to the web mapping platform that's really pushed web map development and the availability. This here is just an example, or is their gallery of available web maps. So some of you may be familiar with ArcGIS.com, some of you may not, but this is a good resource to just see what kind of pre-made maps are out there. Some of them are very specialized on one particular thing, and then other ones are more global or more permanent based kind of. So this is my opinion on it, and I'm not looking, there's no right or wrong answer here for this, but of those that are out there, when you were using Arc 8 or Arc 9, you were very comfortable with particular tools, and you knew what to do, exactly what to do. You could be a power user or a casual user, and you would know exactly where it was you had to go to get your job done within ArcMap. But then Arc 10 came out, and things were very different. And I jokingly say, if you can remember the first time you tried an edit session in Arc 10, you probably floundered for a couple hours trying to figure out how you did a very simple thing. I do GIS for a living. I consider myself a power user, whatever that means, but I do it pretty much every single day. Now put yourself in shoes of individuals who might use it 4 hours a week, and they were being asked to, or their boss would have asked them, hey, put this point of whatever it is on a map for me. Well, that would have been an undertaking that might have taken longer to create, or it would have been quicker for them to make it with a crayon than it would have been to do in GIS. So that's not necessarily the answer, but it is, I believe, one of the answers. Everybody is so specialized nowadays, and Arc 10, while the tools are there, you have to dig around a lot. So it really pushed making a canned, simple web map. It really brought that to the forefront of people's minds of, hey, I just want to access this to do A, B, and C. I don't need everything else. Arc 10 also was a more robust ArcGIS Online connection, and there it seems that every 6 months there's a new version of ArcGIS coming out, or there's talk of a new version coming out. So there was a lot of frustration with folks that I've dealt with of trying to keep current for the 1 day a week that they might use GIS. Their job wasn't changing for GIS. They just, the tool itself, so they just needed a simple platform. So web mapping, for me, was an obvious answer. So I guess more specifically now on my web mapping journey, I was tired of making PDFs or JPEGs and sending them off to folks, at various scales that were usable or not usable. I wanted to show not necessarily my boss, but the world what I was working on. And within ArcMap, that was very cumbersome. You couldn't really do that. I also needed folks to be on the same page when we were having discussions. But as much as we are now with the webinar, we weren't going to be meeting face to face. So we all need to be looking at the same map, at the same data, zooming into the same areas. And then lastly, I needed a system in which to empower local field users, casual GIS users or brand spanking new GIS users. I needed them to collect data for me, so I could feed that into various decision support systems. So for those 4 reasons, that's probably why I have been on this journey. Now, that's not to say that paper maps aren't needed. They're always going to be needed. Everybody loves the feel of paper maps in their hand. Throw it out on the roof of the truck, and you can make lots of good decisions. Sketch it on a napkin, same thing. But the web map is going to help facilitate decisions, but also create more timely products for the end user and for the public in general. All right. So technology here. I'll show you some examples from ArcGIS Online. I'll show you some screen captures, but then we'll jump into ArcGIS Online, some of the real-world examples I've got here. I'll also show a couple examples of Adobe Flex, which is another web mapping, which is a web mapping application. And then I'll show you an example of web maps that you can use for data creation, and then maps that are available on mobile devices. This first one here is of Monocacy National Battlefield in, I believe it's Maryland, and their FMO wanted to see, or would like to create a fuel model map from their vegetation map. So this was a map that I created, attributed it all within all these examples are going to start with ArcGIS, the license that I have here at the university. And I'll show you a couple variations of that coming up here in a little bit. But this is pretty much simply the map layout. Let's see here. Switch to that. Oops. And so now hopefully you should be able to see the map. And zooming in and zooming out, you can use these buttons up here if you want to. I like using the shift key and then drawing a box where I want to go. Some of the basic stuff that I really want to show you that will be of help is this base map change here. You can select anything, or not anything, but these 9 choices here. Pictures are worth 1,000 words for me, so I go with imagery a lot, but topographic maps might be more your flavor. Think of this as the contents over here as an ArcMap table of contents. You've got this guy right here is your Oh, I realize I just glossed over a terminology. I apologize for that. This here is your map service. Your map service, think of that as a map document with a web address attached to it. That map service has multiple data layers, could have multiple data layers associated with it. So this is the map service, and this here is, in this case, this is the Scott & Bergen fuel models data layer, and this is the, I just switched it, this is the Anderson fuel models. You can't break this map. You can, anybody can access this map. It's wide open to the general public. And I'm just simply left-clicking to close some of these things here and open them back up. You can print screen right here. You have measuring tools. You have measure area, measure length, distances you can choose here. Same with areas. And then you can get a location in degrees or degrees seconds, whichever one you would like to choose from there. Let's see. You can also share this particular map. You don't have to type in or copy and paste the whole web address here. You could actually use this. Sorry. And I remember how to do this. Yeah. Well, David, note to self, you can't put the pointer on this screen. Anyway, you can use this little link here, or you could copy and paste the full-blown web address that's up at the top. And I'm not even logged in. Let me log in real quick here, and you'll notice some more examples or more tools are going to pop up. Now I have the ability to get directions using the street layer, or the route analysis and the streets that come with this particular map set. I can save this map, save it out as different things, or if I have a different version of it that I want to. If it's a regional map and I wanted to save it as a city or a state level map, zoom to my particular area, save it, and then or save as, and then you're not messing up the original map. Oh, bookmarks. If I had bookmarks here, again, a regional map, I could zoom to particular areas, states, whatever your geographic area is here. And these are some options that are available when you log in, when you have a ArcGIS Online account. Pop-ups are identification. This is the attribute table here that I'm hitting of the table, of the spatial data itself. You control that over here. That was not an option when I was not logged in. So remove, I can turn that off, or I can tweak it, tweak the pop-up. I can show the table down here. So here's the attribute table. So if I had a particular field, if this was a point, it would probably be a better example, but if I had a particular field or location that I was looking for, I could select it and then center, go zoom to it. So there it is. So again, it's a different, it's making the attribute table available looking at it from this standpoint. And that was what I wanted to show you with that one. So let me go stop sharing. All right. All right. So now we're back with external map services here. That previous example was a map that I made off of data that I created, that I have here at NC State. This is an example of being able to capitalize on that enterprise GIS, on that distributed GIS, where you can access data layers, authoritative data layers, hopefully, from other agencies, federal, state, NGOs, private. Well, I can't say I found a private company out there, but at any rate, so in this particular example here, I've got There we go. Okay. So here's a map service. It has 4 different types of data. Here's a map service, the wilderness, and here's a map service, the NHD. So the lands resource map comes actually from the straight from the National Park Service. This is the web address for it. The wilderness comes straight from the University of Montana. They're the official keepers of the wilderness data. And then the NHD comes from the national map itself. So these are all data layers that I'm not hosting at all myself. I don't have them on my machine, but yet I'm able to access them in this web map here. I can obviously incorporate my own data into this map if I want to, and I'll actually show you that. Actually, yeah, might as well show it to you now. Oops. So now we're back on a different map here, and what I'd like to show you here is the add button. The add button was available not logged in, but I really don't envision folks that are casual map users to use this button a lot. You can, but I think you'd be more GIS savvy using these particular ones. So with that said, the add layer from file, the add layer from web, and the browse ESRI base layers, that's probably really designed for GIS folks. If I had a particular shapefile or a CSV file, I could add it here. The shapefile has to be zipped, but you can browse to it and add it here. If there was a layer on the web, if I have a server like the national map example that I showed you a little while ago, mapservices.nps.gov. For me, my services are on Navajo, navajo.cnr.ncsu, blah 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 blah. So if you know if you know the exact address, then you can search for it here. But probably extremely useful for everybody is the ability to add a map note. A map note is simply nothing more than a graphic. You can pick a theme if you want to here, and then you can add points, lines, or polygons to and even text to your map. Again, the idea is you could save that map and then share it with other people. And then probably the most useful and most fun way to kill some time and look for data is to go up to add, search for layers, and then here you can type in a geographic area or a theme. So I'll just type in Florida, and here are the map services, so the data that is available that you could add to this particular map, or to any particular map if you wanted to. And then the name of the person who did it or who created the map is here as well. So maybe I'm discovering somebody's data that's on this webinar. I don't know. But at any rate, this is a great way to just search around for data. I always use ArcGIS Online. You can search the web, but I don't find that as useful. And then ESRI Map Layers is actually pretty good. That's a lot of the base Carto kind of maps, the regional world scale things. So data layers to add in. All right, so let me stop that. Next example is Imagery. I had a PDF that was sent to me with a lot of vector information or a lot of hand-drawn information. So I was able to just reference or georeference the PDF and then bring that into ArcGIS Online. And then so the individuals, the National Park Service unit in this case, could see where some of the proposed stuff was versus actuality. So it's not just vector data sets, it's a raster as well that you can bring in. This next example is another term that I forgot to mention right at the beginning there, but a feature service. So a map service is information that is just it's a one-way street. It's just dissemination of data, dissemination of that information. A feature service actually allows for the collection or the editing of that particular data set. So think of it as a two-way street. This map deploys a feature service that enables an end user to collect, or in this case, digitize data. I'll show you an example how this is accessible on a mobile device, but it's extremely useful to show this in the desktop environment as well. This particular map requires a login, so it is secure in that not everybody can access this, and you can also make the actual individual service itself not discoverable. So if security is a big issue for you, there are multiple hoops that can be, or multiple boxes basically that can be checked. And in this particular example here, I've digitized this planned broadcast burn that we're going to do up at Shenandoah. I don't think this is real, but this planned unit here, and then when I'm done, this info box pops up, and this is nothing more than the attribute table, and I'm filling in the attributes here. You can use domains to make life easier, or you can just enter in free text as you go along. So this exciting map here is within the Flex environment. So all those previous ones were done in the ArcGIS Online platform. This is done in the Flex environment or Flex application here. All the ArcGIS Online maps were pretty basic with limited but important functions. But this example, Cape Cod here, and the next map that I'll show are much more labor intensive to set up, but they also enable you to do a lot more. So here, the situation wasn't, it's not a problem. The situation was the fire manager had come up with a set of criteria that he wanted to display on a map that would allow, that basically those criteria said, I'm allowed to burn in this particular area. He's got that listed out on a spreadsheet, but he wanted a way to visually show that. And he also wanted to show other managers within the park where where the criteria is met 1, 2, 3, or 4 different management criteria. So using the Flex, and of course he's not a GIS guy. He knows what GIS does, but he's not a GIS guy. So what we worked with him was creating a within ArcGIS Desktop, creating a model for him, doing a whole bunch of geoprocessing tools, or deploying a bunch of geoprocessing tools, dissolve, union, intersect, and that tool runs in Flex, and it crunches the data for him, and it spits out the areas that meet 1, 2, 3, or 4 of the criterias. And then he can print a screen or print map here if he wants to. I can put it into a nicer looking template. But the other good thing or neat thing about this particular map is that he can enter in new data. So one of his criteria are power lines. So as he or the park gets new data on power lines, he can actually digitize that information. The database is then updated, and then he can hit run, and the model runs all over again and gives him a new output. And this is all done within, it's designed in ArcGIS Desktop, but it's all run within the Flex environment. And the terminology here within Flex there is widgets. There's lots of widgets. You can create your own widget. You can leverage the existing widgets that are within Flex, but then also there's a gallery of widgets that you can download. that other users have created. Next example here is using within Flex, using a routing tool for the Appalachian Trail. The park managers there, the trail managers, aren't necessarily familiar with every single access point. Where's the closest access point to get to a particular location? And they were looking for some sort of web map interface here that would let them drop a point, and then from that point determine what the closest access is, or road crossing in this particular example, and then give them a what the mileage is here. And so that's what this example is demonstrating here. Again, all created within ArcGIS, but when they want it, they don't have to fire up ArcGIS. They can just go to the web address that this map is located at. Another example for the Appalachian Trail is, let's say there was some sort of incident and they wanted to send out a kind of a buffered information, or send out some public information of potentially impacted areas. They could enter in, if they've got a point or a polygon, whatever it is, they can draw that and then enter in buffers, basically, and then use that to visually or input that information, and then a map would be generated showing those buffers that they had entered. And I didn't get this working in time, but what I wanted to show you was that this is the output, the print output from Adobe Flex. But you can also, if you have a template set up with your official logos and your, you've got a beautiful template that you use for all your map products, you can actually put that template into a model within Model Builder, and then Model Builder will use that template, and then this JPEG will get put into your map document. Wanted to get an example of that, but I didn't get it working in time. But at any rate, you can print from here, and there's a print is a widget, but there are tons of different widgets that are out there. Selection, analysis, using one cool one I've seen is for elevation change. It's using the DEMs that are out there. It'll be using the USGS DEMs, but it can show you the elevation change of a particular trail, so on and so forth. Let's see. Oops. This next example is going to look the same as some of the other examples, but it's the back-end database that is very different in this case. All of the examples we're using NC State resources. I would make the map. The map would be hitting data that's in a SQL Server or a Postgres database, some sort of SDE database, and then I would serve that map out via Arc Server. This map is bypassing basically the SDE and the Arc Server. So all I'm doing is creating the map, or creating a shapefile on my desktop, and then I'm uploading that shapefile to ESRI, and then I'm basically I'm using ESRI's hosted services, is what they call it, and that's allowing me to use ESRI's server capabilities to disseminate my data. So I'm actually really starting to use ESRI's resources, their cloud, whereas previously I was really only using ArcGIS.com platform. I don't know if that makes sense, but this map is a big change from desktop GIS to now we're getting into the true web GIS, where you potentially are eliminating software needs with just going straight utilizing the ESRI resources. And, oh yeah, that's right. I was going to highlight that here. So down here at the bottom, these are all the wildfire perimeters. Correctly. Wildfire perimeters, mega region access, and then the lands track boundaries here. So there's the wildfire perimeters, here's the mega region, and there's the lands. These are all the map services that this particular map is using. But then this wildfire perimeters is actually coming from ArcGIS. So I've given them the ability, and you can see here this is a feature service. So I want folks to use this to collect data, either digitizing it or using it on a mobile device, whereas these other ones are map services. These two down here at the bottom also come from ESRI. They are the background imagery and then the labels that are associated with that. And then if I was to, these would change depending on the base map that I was looking for or that I was using. All right, so now this one, I think I can do this, so I'm gonna go for it. I'm actually going to create. This is a simple version here, but I'm going to create a web map. I'm going to upload data to ArcGIS Online and make a quick and dirty map. So actually, let's go. Let's afraid of that. All right. Anyway. So this is just the map that I had up earlier. There's no, and I'll actually just add data to this particular map. But this is not a bad example because this is all the data layers that I'm not hosting. This is coming from other people. So I'm going to go to add layer from file. I've got a shape file here that I want to upload. I'm going to keep the original features. Turn those two off. So here's the SFE upload. These are just some points here. And I've got another one I want to add. Pretty monotone here, but I can change it here. So here's the this is the map service, and this is the underlying data that's associated with that map service. I'm going to change the. I'm logged in to the organization, so I'm going to change the symbols, and I want to do it based on a unique symbol. That'll work for me. And so you can do the same thing with the points, the centroids here. And let's see, that's and then you would save the map, and that's pretty much the process of making a quick and dirty web map. You can get more cartographically inclined. There's a couple different options in here, but that kind of is the 2-minute process of uploading your own data. This data is sitting on ESRI servers at this point. So if there's T&E species, I wouldn't put those out there, but there's other avenues for that as well. Let's see here. So that was that example. Perform analysis. I don't want to. I hesitated just to show this, but I did want to just brief mention it. I'm not really sure how applicable it's going to be for natural resource folks. And to be honest with you, I've only got experience with a few of these analysis tools that they've introduced here. There's a lot of data that's associated with some of these analyses, especially the data enrichment. But one thing to point out is that the terminology has changed to appeal more for common or casual users. Geoprocessing has been thrown out. You don't buffer something, you use proximity. You don't select by attributes or select by location, you just find locations. The data enrichment is the one that really, see how small that is? That goes down, I don't know, about 200 different data layers. And then these are nested, so there's about 5 or 6 within each one of these data layers as well, things that you can pick. It's basically a boatload of stats that you could assign to a bounding box or to a point. And they're not really focused on natural resources. It's more on a business analyst kind of deal. Last but not least, I'll mention the ESRI app. I call it the ESRI Green app just because people that I talk with, they can find that one easier. This app allows you to access any map that you've created in the ArcGIS desktop environment on a mobile device, iOS and Android. I think Windows is. I'm not sure. I know it was in development. I'm not sure if it exists now or not. So this map I showed you earlier, it facilitates the collection or creation of, in this case, a prescribed fire. But here's what it looks like in the mobile environment on my mobile device. Here, I've digitized on my own phone. I've digitized a polygon, whereas here, or not that one, here, I've actually walked around particular areas, and so it's the map is capitalizing or is using the GPS that's built into your phone. Seems kind of obvious, I know, but it was a kind of a watershed moment for some of the community that I was talking to about, wow, I can get everything on my desktop on my phone. And once that connection was made, the light switch went off, and boom, people were, they really got it. So that's why I call it the Green app, because they've got like an orange, a blue, and each one is different, does a different thing. But the ESRI app is free. I wouldn't recommend actually making a map on a mobile device. I would just use it to search for pre-made maps. If you're part of a group, if you've got a user group set up, or if you're part of an organization, you can see all of those maps that are associated with that group. The maps on the mobile device will have this exact same functionality. You can identify things, you can measure, you can use the bookmark, you could probably even print. I've never tried that. So yeah, you could probably do that. The app, as I mentioned earlier, uses the built-in GPS for your location, and the phone varies for your GPS, but then the worst place that we kind of went in testing this, the worst place we found was just outside of New York City. So your environment is definitely going to impact that. Anyway, you can access view-only maps, but then also the data collection maps, the maps that let you collect a feature or collect attributes on a location. You obviously have to have a cell signal for these to work. If you don't have a cell signal, ESRI does have the Collector app, which allows for disconnecting, editing. That is for a different topic, and I don't have that much experience with that yet either. It's like a lot of things with ESRI. It's pretty nebulous, pretty quick. Now, and this also isn't to say that ArcGIS is the only mobile device GIS app that's out there. There's a bunch of them that are out there. If you're not really worried about data management, then the ESRI app might not be what you're looking for, because this streamlines a lot more of the data management side of things. Yeah, let's see here. Starting to wrap it up here for you guys. I would copy and paste this link, the arcgis.com home sign in. If you're not familiar with ArcGIS for organizations, or even the free version of ArcGIS, this is a good place to start with. It kind of gets in. It gets into this thing of if you're paying for something, if you're a university or if you're a private business and you're paying for ArcMap, but you're really only using 1 or 2% of the capabilities within ArcMap, is it worth paying for everything else that you're not using? So kind of the pay as you go scale, as opposed to the pay for everything and then I have free unlimited use of it, or not free, but just unlimited use of it. So there is a free 30-day trial. I don't think 30 days is enough, because I know nobody out there has 30 days to simply devote to one thing. It should be more like a 60 or 90 day, but it's a good jumping off point. But even before that, I would check, especially if you're a federal agency, state agency, university, check with your GIS shop or your OIT, your Office of Information Technology shop, to see if you don't already have ArcGIS for organizations. It's so at any rate, check that first. And the other thing that this really kind of gets to is a change in business models. Here you pay for subscriptions. You would pay for a number of users using ArcGIS Online, but then you would also pay per analysis, the perform analysis sides that I was showing you there. So again, some of these examples that they've got, or the examples that they've got up here, I don't really see a lot of natural resource folks doing it that much. Maybe on some of the storage stuff here, you could use that. But then again, this is my community, the folks that I deal with. I know they're not going to be geocoding. I know they're not going to be doing anything with the data enrichment. So it's a little each use case is going to be very different. And then lastly, I'd recommend using the personal tool to start out with. You're not going to get as many bells and whistles, but maybe you don't need the bells and whistles. Maybe you just need to make graphics. It really depends on what you or what your end user is looking for. The ArcGIS Online for Organizations really facilitates data management sharing, or data management, but data sharing. It really gets more than one person using the same database, the same data, and you can actually really start to do things with it, the perform analysis bits. And then kind of lastly here, it really boils down to kind of, I guess this is more for the university folks that are out there, two really different workflows that are coming out of this. You're going to have you're always going to have need for ArcGIS desktop folks, or professionals, I think is what they call them now. Those are your power users. They're more in line with, sadly, IT, with database management things. They're going to be an analyst. They're really going to dive into the problems and solve them with GIS. Whereas for other folks that just need to use GIS, they don't necessarily, want to solve the world problems or whatever. They have a job they have to do, and it's a repeatable job, and they know what they need to do. Probably the web-based ArcGIS tools are going to be, and not just ArcGIS, the web-based GIS tools are going to be better suited. Data collection on a mobile device. So yeah, well, I'll leave it at that. That was my ending was horrible, but that's all right. So if anybody has any questions, I see a couple down here. You feel free to email me as well, or I guess David will just facilitate from here. I guess I can start with Andrew's question first. Sorry I didn't see that earlier. Was a previous map created with ArcGIS Online? Chances are yes. The ArcGIS Online maps, those were the those were any of the maps that looked like this. That's the ArcGIS Online maps. Flex maps were a little snazzier. They're a little.
I think his question came up when you had the analyst map up. I think that was one of your slides. Does that ring a bell?
Analyst. Is that the Cape Cod example?
I believe so.
Then that was within Flex. The Flex, yeah, the Flex, the Adobe Flex, that map application lets you do a whole lot more. Lets you do a lot more analyses. There's a lot more widgets, a lot more functionality involved in that.
Can you go back so that we can see the PowerPoint?
Probably.
The chat window there.
Is that? I think that's the one.
I'll tell you in a second there.
Oh wait, sorry. Yeah, I'll stop sharing.
I still see the.
Yeah, sorry.
There it is.
That one. Sorry.
Yep, that's all right. Well, thanks, Justin. I think we have another question in there, and I imagine we'll have a few others come in. See, Alexander had a question in terms of, is it free to make web maps if you already have ArcMap in terms of the desktop application?
The short answer is no, but the long answer is check with whomever you work for. I think you were a state park. Check with Florida State Parks or somebody within Florida, because they may already have ArcGIS Online for organizations. That's what really that's a subscription-based web map that really lets you capitalize on the ESRI cloud and the ESRI services that they provide. If you only have ArcMap, you could make maps, but you would have to use their hosted services. And in order to use their hosted services, you have to have a ArcGIS Online for Organization account.
You mentioned that the mobile applications required Wi-Fi or a data connection to enable them to work. Do you have, is there an option, or do you have recommendations for other ways so that people who are working in resource management or in areas where they won't have connections?
The one thing I would say to definitely investigate at this point would be the Collector app, because the Collector app is going to allow you to download all of your geospatial information, your base map. So if you've got aerial photography, it's going to download your aerial photography or your topo map, download all your vector data onto your mobile device, and then let you go out into the field and collect information, collect attributes based on a location. And then when you get back to your office, you can, using, I think it's ActiveSync, you can just plug it in, and it will upload all that information into your database. It's basically kind of like creating a checkout from an enterprise geodatabase. The other thing with Collector is you can build a form, and it's a simple form, but you can build a form that allows some of that stuff as well, some of that data sharing, or I'm sorry, data capture.
But the benefit of the Collector app would be that everything is local on your mobile device. Is that right?
Yes. Yep,
Cool. Okay.
it's local on your device,
Mm-hmm.
but you can still incorporate changes to your database that's back at your
Mm-hmm.
office.
So you can then pull that back in once you get back inside.
Correct.
Cool. I think for a lot of folks in fire and resource management, many of the areas that we work, we don't have data. It seems like it's getting better, but there's still plenty of places where there's no 3G or 4G accessible. So I think those kinds of knowing that those other options are available is important. So I guess I have one more question before we kind of wrap things up. So what's the next step for people who are interested in this? Where would they go to learn more about these kinds of tools?
Can you put the slides back up real
I
quick?
can. I can. 1 second.
There's
There you
two.
go.
I probably won't be able to find it, but there's two web addresses. I would start here, the arcgis.com/home, and that's going to be your jumping off point for arcgis.com. That you can access the maps, pre-made maps, but you can also make your own maps there. That would be, right now, what I would do. The other thing that I would do would be to fire an email off to your GIS person or your IT folks and ask if your agency has AGOL for organizations. Because if you do, then your life will be easier. I'll just say that. Because it's already paid for. And a lot of federal agencies already have it. I know the state, some of the states do. I know state of North Carolina has it. And folks have been apprehensive to really let it go to the internal, internally only, simply because it's so new and we don't really know how people are going to use it.
Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily publicly available. I guess the maps that are being developed. Is that what you're saying?
Public isn't the term. I would say within within North Carolina State University, we are supposed to can only let 500 people into the organization.
Into your, I'm throwing quotes up in the air. The ArcGIS organization.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Like the Park Service, National Park Service, they have an ArcGIS Online for Organization account, but they have been very restrictive as to who can access it because they don't know how people are going to use it. Kind of this chicken or before the egg or whatever, cart before the horse thing. But anyway, the first step is to make sure that you've got it. All right, you have access to it.
All right. Well, thanks. It looks like a few minutes over, so I think we've run up to the end of our time. If anybody still has questions for Justin, his email address is there on your screen. So thanks very much, Justin, for your presentation today. It was a good time, and I've enjoyed it. And we do ask that folks that are here in our audience, please take just a couple of minutes and click on that Qualtrics survey in the middle of the current slide, and let us know how we did today, and let us know how we can tailor our future webinars to better suit your fire science needs.